So the number one thing that I always see women, especially women that come to me for glute growth coaching or just one-on-one coaching in general, is that they had a trainer or a coach or they had an app or a program that they bought that just seemed very lackluster. And so I wanted to say this as number one reason why you're not seeing the growth you're wanting is because most of these programs, trainers, and coaches do not have an underlying strategy for their programming. They're really well put together exercises and programs, but there's no strategy or any underlying root solution to anything. They just put random exercises together in a balanced way, and that's pretty much it. Something that I could do really quickly, but something that my clients have seen the most growth is with a program that has a very well structured strategy, science-based strategy to it that has been tested and tried over many client test groups like I've done with my strategy for glute growth. That has been groundbreaking for all the women I apply it to. For me, the strategy is building the neural pathways first and then going into using weights. And that has been so amazing. So you have to find something or a coach or trainer that has a real strategy to their programming and not just using a cookie cutter program. That is the biggest number one mistake I see women making that is keeping them from seeing the glute growth that they are really wanting. And that leads me into number two, is caring more about how many reps you can do with a certain amount of weight instead of the neural pathway contraction quality that you're experiencing. So I much rather have all my clients only caring about the contraction quality instead of weight and counting reps. That usually skyrockets their glute growth by itself, and that's again part of my coaching strategy. So again, bringing it back to how important it is to have a real structured program that is science-based like mine is. So it's very important. I cannot stress that enough. The next one is the order of the exercises that you're doing is so important to the brain's ability to understand what you're trying to do. If you just do heavy hip thrust right away, it's not gonna get the memo of what you're trying to do, which is to build the glutes up. So for this, the correct order for glute growth would be, for my system, for the first few weeks, would be glute bridges to cue the brain slowly and to just get them activated at first and to start cueing the brain as to where the glutes even are, or else you're gonna go into that heavy movement not feeling the glutes at all because your brain is just kind of wondering what's happening, if that makes sense. You have to build it up slowly. I would do glute bridges first to one burnout set of those, then hip thrusts, and then going into Bulgarian split squats. The reason I put Bulgarian split squats third most of the time is because by the time you have done the glute bridges and the hip thrust, your brain has already usually gotten the memo of what you're trying to do. And since Bulgarian split squats are the most difficult part to feel for glutes, but it's the most important for glute growth, so important that's in that order for a reason and not just randomly going about it and just doing the exercises out of order. And again, it's not knowing what to do. And that's the importance of this well-structured plan as well. Another really big mistake that I see women making, whether it's my clients or just women online, are finishing the set when they're only feeling it in their quads. For this, you should be resetting and re-cueing your brain on where the glutes are located, because if you're feeling your quads during a movement, it's a sign that your brain has not gotten the memo of what you're trying to do. So you need to stop and reset and do an isometric hold for your glutes of any kind, and then go back into that movement and try your hardest to keep that hold for as long as you can. The biggest mistake is when girls keep on going when they feel only the quads. When you do that, you're only strengthening those neural pathways to the quads even more. So the second you feel your quads start to work a lot to the point where it's burning, you need to stop well before that happens in order to get that glute growth that you want, because it all starts in the brain. So being very uncontrolled and unfocused is one of the biggest things I see also that women do They just try to complete the movement and they're not caring about how they complete the movement. They're just doing it to complete it, and that's the total wrong way to go about it. If you go about it like that, you're only going to be working your quads, hamstrings, whatever it may be. Your brain is going to be using all muscles in order to complete the movement without being injured. But if you focus on the right thing and be very intentional, you will only feel it in the glutes. Being very uncontrolled and unfocused on the way down is one of the biggest things that I see that women are doing. They're not realizing what they should do because they don't really know what they should be doing, if that makes sense. And most of these plans and workouts and apps do not touch on the root cause of things, which is why I don't like them and why I highly recommend getting a coach or a program that is very science-based and very descriptive and very intentional with every single thing it has you doing. Or else you're gonna run into these tiny things where you're like, oh, why isn't it working? Why am I not feeling it type thing? And then you end up quitting and then starting all over with a new plan and new app or whatever it may be. The next one is a really common one as well that I had to write down. I see women just trying to move the weight instead of having that muscle that you're trying to work move the weight, if that makes sense. You should not be just trying to move the weight and get it done. You should be trying to get the muscle that you want to grow to complete the movement with the weight, and that's how you should be doing it. Again, it's all about intentionality. You should not be just going about it like you're trying to complete the movement and that's it. Huge problem and huge mistake that women make that are keeping them from growing their glutes the way they're wanting. Another thing that is keeping thousands of women from seeing the growth that they want is progressing themselves way too quickly. A big problem that I see women doing is progressing themselves way too fast, whether that be with a plan that is not structured correctly, or they're seeing all these women online who have amazing glutes, who see me lifting 45-pound dumbbells with Bulgarian split squats, but they don't understand that for me at least, I've gotten to that point using a very, very delicate and slow approach. You can't just go into it lifting that amount or else your body is just not gonna be ready for it at all. Your quads are gonna grow instead of your glutes. You have to do it in a structured, phased way, very delicately, starting out with no weight at all, and slowly building up to that very delicately. I cannot stress that enough. So when you see a girl like me lifting 45 pounds or a plate on hip thrust and me having big glutes, it's why I don't tend to do workout videos of my full routine, because I do not want women to think that's what they need to do to get to the point that I am, because they have no idea that I started out at nothing for many months and then built up very slowly to that. So using no weight for many months establishes that neural control, and then you can start building upon that. But you cannot just start out lifting heavy and then expect that to happen. Probably the number one thing that I recommend, but I put it toward the last. I say it in every single video and I don't want to sound repetitive, but I'm saying it again because it's so important, that you need to set a few months where you don't use any weight at all and focus on the connection with your glutes. It's not just the mind-muscle connection phrase that you tend to hear where you just try to activate a few reps before going into the heavy movements. That's not what I'm talking about at all. You need to not use any weight for many months, and that will build the neural control over your glutes because it forces you to only care about the contraction you are feeling. Especially if you're quad dominant, you need to be doing this. Otherwise, you will stay and remain quad dominant. It's what I coach in. It's what I've tested so many methods for, and this one is the only one that has worked. So trust me when I say start out with nothing for many months, build the neural establishments to the glutes, and then once you have that neural control, the strong neural control over your glutes, you can use weight again. So that is a big, big thing that is keeping women from seeing the glute growth that they're wanting. And finally, I say this in a lot of my videos, but you need to stop counting reps. Counting reps is not only a big distraction to the brain's process of realizing what you're trying to do when you're doing the movement, because it takes so much focus, especially when you're in the neural establishment phase. It's so important that you're not busy counting at the same time, because when you're trying to sleep and you count sheep to go to sleep, it's so distracting for that reason. So you can't do it when you're trying to build up the neural establishment to the glutes that doesn't have any establishment there yet. It all starts in the brain, and the neural pathways are a physical thing in the brain that get built over time. And so the more intentional and the more you have to focus on the glutes, the more growth you're gonna see. If you're counting throughout every single movement that you do, you're just wasting time and wasting precious time that you could be growing so much more by not counting reps at all. Instead of counting reps, trying to move the weight, that's why you're not seeing the growth that you're wanting. All of these are so important, and I really hope you guys got something from this video. If you did, please subscribe, like, and comment. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Follow me on my Instagram for more of me. You have a good one, and goodbye.